The moment my parents told me that my children's Christmas gifts depended on how much I helped them, I knew exactly what they meant. "If you help us more, they will get presents," my mother had said, as if she were doing me a favor. Last year, I had sent them $2,000 a month for 6 months, not because they needed it, but because they made me feel like I owed them. They had no debts, my father still worked part-time, and their house was fully paid off. Yet, for as long as I could remember, they had a way of making financial support seem like my duty, an unspoken rule of being their son. I had never questioned it, until this year. Things had gotten tighter for my own family. Unexpected expenses came up, and I could only afford to send them $1,000 a month instead of the usual amount. I thought they'd understand. They didn't. A week after I reduced the payments, my mother called me. "What about Christmas presents?" she asked, her tone casual, but I knew better. "You're not buying them presents?" I asked, already bracing for the answer. She sighed. "Well, Ethan, we have to be fair. Last year, you gave more, and this year, well, we just can't afford to be as generous. You understand, right?" By fair, she meant that my children would be punished for my inability to send them as much money as before. The real kicker? My sister Olivia had never sent them a dime, yet her 4 children always received extravagant gifts from them. I clenched my jaw. "Are you seriously telling me that you're buying presents for Olivia's kids, but not mine, just because I sent you less money this year?" My mother let out another sigh, as if I was the one being difficult. "Ethan, it's nothing personal. It's just how things worked out. Maybe if things get better next year." I hung up before I said something I couldn't take back. When I told my wife, Claire, she was stunned. "They wouldn't really do that to the kids," she said, shaking her head. "They'll come around. It's Christmas." I wasn't so sure. But we had already agreed to spend Christmas with them, and a small part of me hoped she was right, that my parents were just bluffing to make a point. They weren't. When we arrived, everything looked perfect. The warm glow of the fireplace, the scent of cinnamon and pine filling the air, the Christmas tree twinkling with lights. My parents greeted us with bright smiles, acting as if nothing was wrong. Olivia was already there, sipping coffee while her children tore into beautifully wrapped presents. The floor around them was littered with ribbons and discarded wrapping paper. Each gift bore a tag, from Grandma and Grandpa. Lily and Noah, my 2 children, ran to the tree, their little faces beaming with excitement as they searched for their own gifts. There were none. A tightness formed in my chest. Claire shot me a look, her expression unreadable. My mother, suddenly avoiding my gaze, leaned in and whispered, "We weren't going to say anything in front of the kids, but you understand, right? Things are just different this year." I stared at her, barely able to process what she had just said. "Are you serious?" My voice was low, my hands clenched into fists. "You really didn't get them anything?" My father shrugged and turned back to his coffee. "Ethan, let's not make a scene. It's Christmas." I looked at my children. Lily tugged at my sleeve, her voice small. "Daddy, where are our presents?" I swallowed hard, forcing a steady tone. "They left them at home, honey. It's okay, we'll have presents later." Noah's lower lip quivered. Claire bent down, whispering softly to them, trying to keep them calm. I turned back to my parents, my voice quiet but firm. "We're leaving." My mother gasped. "Ethan, don't be ridiculous." But I was done. Claire and I gathered the kids and walked out as fast as we could. My mother's voice followed us, calling my name, but I wasn't listening. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly they hurt. The silence in the back seat was worse than anything my parents had said. Lily and Noah weren't crying. They were just quiet, still trying to understand what had happened. Halfway down the road, my phone started ringing. My mother. I ignored it. It rang again. Then Olivia. Then my father. Claire exhaled sharply. "They're not going to let this go." I pulled into an old diner we used to visit as kids, one of those places with red booths and a Christmas tree in the corner. As soon as we sat down, Claire forced a smile. "All right, Christmas pancakes, extra whipped cream." Noah nodded, but Lily just stirred her hot chocolate. I was about to say something to cheer her up when my phone rang again. This time it was my dad. I finally picked up. "You embarrassed your mother," he said. "Walking out like that was cruel." I let out a bitter laugh. "Cruel? You think I'm cruel? You let my kids sit there, watching their cousins open presents, knowing they had nothing. And I'm the bad guy." My dad sighed. "Ethan, it wasn't about the money." "Then what was it about?" I cut him off. "Because it sure as hell wasn't about love." Silence. Then finally, in a quieter voice, he said, "We didn't think they'd notice." I nearly threw my phone. Claire must have noticed my expression because she reached over and squeezed my hand. I took a deep breath and lowered my voice. "We're done here, Dad. Don't call me again." A few hours later, after we had salvaged Christmas with pancakes, presents from us, and a movie night at home, there was a knock at the door. It was my mother. I opened it, arms crossed. "What are you doing here?" She shifted awkwardly, clutching a bag. "I brought presents for the kids." I didn't move. "Oh, now you have presents? What changed?" She hesitated. "Your sister said you overreacted. But then I thought about it, and maybe we made a mistake." Claire appeared behind me, arms crossed. "You think?" My mother exhaled sharply, as if she wanted to argue but knew better. She held out the bag. I took it, opened it, and immediately felt my stomach sink. Inside were cheap, last-minute toys. Things clearly grabbed in a hurry from a gas station or a drugstore shelf. A plastic doll. A tiny car. No wrapping paper. No thought. Lily peeked over my shoulder. "Daddy, what is it?" I turned to her, my heart aching. "Nothing, sweetheart." Then I looked back at my mother. "Keep it." Her face fell. "Ethan, you're not sorry," I said. "You just didn't like the way it looked when we left. All you care about is winning." She pressed her lips into a thin line. She wanted to argue, but she didn't. Instead, she turned and left. I closed the door. Claire put an arm around me, and I let out a breath. In the living room, Lily and Noah were laughing, playing with the gifts we had given them. The weight in my chest slowly lifted. This was our real family, and I wasn't going to let my parents ruin another holiday. The next morning, I woke up with absolute clarity. I scrolled through my phone, rereading my parents' messages. My mother had sent a dozen texts overnight, ranging from fake concern to outright guilt. My father had sent only one. "Let's not make any rash decisions." They thought I was bluffing. I wasn't. I dialed my mother's number. She picked up immediately. "Ethan, I knew you'd come to your senses." "There's nothing to talk about," I interrupted. "I just wanted to let you know. I'm not sending you any more money." Silence. Then laughter. "Oh, Ethan, don't be silly. Of course you're still going to help us. That's what family does." I sipped my coffee. Funny. I thought family was about love and support, not about punishing grandchildren for money. Her tone changed instantly. "You're serious?" "I've been underreacting for years," I said. And for the first time, I finally felt free. I leaned back, staring at my phone, my mother's words still hanging in the air. "Fine. Be cruel. Be heartless. But don't expect us to be there for you when you need family." I smirked. "Like how you were there for my kids on Christmas." Click. She hung up. For the first time in years, there was silence. No calls. No texts. No guilt-laced messages meant to pull me back into their game. Just peace. And for the first time in my life, I started to feel free. That peace lasted for a few weeks until one night, Claire nudged me, her phone screen glowing in the dim light. "You might want to see this." It was a Facebook post from my mother. "It's devastating when your own child turns on you after everything we've sacrificed. After all the love we've given, we're left abandoned. Growing old is terrifying when the people you raised decide you're no longer worth their time." I never thought I'd know this kind of heartbreak. A disappointed face emoji at the end, of course. The comments were exactly what I expected. "Oh, sweetheart, I'm so sorry. Some kids are just ungrateful. You deserve better." And then there was Olivia's comment. "I tried talking to him, Mom. He just doesn't care. I don't even know who he is anymore." I let out a short, bitter laugh. They were really doing this. Claire rolled her eyes. "They love playing the victims now that you won't play their game." I cracked my knuckles. "All right, let's have some fun." I typed out my own comment. "Interesting. Didn't see the same energy when you ignored your grandkids on Christmas because I didn't send enough money. But sure, play the victim. Hope it gets you the sympathy cash you're actually looking for." I hit send. Within minutes, the post was deleted. For the first time in a long time, I felt weightless. No guilt. No obligation. No checking my phone every 5 minutes, dreading another manipulative message. Just freedom. And instead of worrying about my parents, I did something for my actual family. Claire and I had been driving the same beat-up SUV for years, always putting off getting something new because there was always some other expense. Unexpected bills, the kids' activities, or more often than not, sending money to my parents. But now I could finally spend on us. So I bought a new car. Not just any car, a fully loaded, top-tier SUV with all the bells and whistles. Something safe for the kids, reliable, and honestly, something that made me feel good. We had worked hard, and for once we were going to enjoy it. I posted a picture online without a second thought. Merry late Christmas to us. Can't wait for new adventures. I didn't even think about my parents when I posted it. But they thought about me. Less than an hour later, my phone rang. My mother. I almost ignored it. Almost. Curious, I picked up. Are you kidding me? She hissed, skipping right past pleasantries. A brand new car, and you're telling us you can't afford to help your own parents? I smirked. There it was. Mom, you don't need my help. You just don't like that I finally stopped letting you take advantage of me. Her voice sharpened. We gave you everything growing up. The least you can do is support us now that we're getting older. You're 56, I said flatly. You don't need support. You need boundaries. That really set her off. So you have money for luxuries, but not for your own parents? I couldn't help it. I laughed. That's rich. I'm selfish? You let my kids sit there on Christmas morning with nothing while their cousins tore into gift after gift because I didn't send you enough money. You weaponized Christmas to punish children. And now you're mad that I finally chose my family over you. There was a pause. Then her tone shifted, quieter but calculated. You've changed. I don't even recognize you anymore. I leaned back in my chair. You mean I stopped being someone you could control? Yeah, I guess I did change. Silence. Then she pulled out her favorite trick, playing the victim. Well, if this is how you really feel about your family, I guess we have nothing left to say to each other. I smirked. Guess not. And I hung up. I thought that was the end of it. I was sure of it. Until 3 days later, when Olivia called. Her voice dripped with passive aggression. Just thought you should know Mom and Dad updated their will. I frowned. Okay. She let out a dramatic sigh. They removed you, Ethan. You and your kids. Everything's going to me now. I had to stifle a laugh. Olivia, I don't want anything from them. Silence. I could practically hear her confusion. You what? I chuckled. You think I care about their money? Keep it. Enjoy it. Have fun dealing with them when they actually do get old and start demanding your help. Her tone turned sharp. You're going to regret this. Pretty sure I won't. And I hung up. That was the last time I heard from any of them. No calls. No texts. No sudden emergencies or guilt trips. They thought they were punishing me by cutting me out. But in reality, they gave me exactly what I wanted.